Welcome to the DePIN State presented by 𝐒𝐻. I'm Nick Hawks. On today's episode, we have Jasvir, the co-founder and CEO at Penomo. This episode is sponsored by 𝐒𝐻 Labs. If you're pushing the limits of what's possible on chain, you should build your own rollup with 𝐒𝐻. We'll have a little bit more on them later in the show. Before we get started, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. This alerts you to when the next episode drops and helps us keep bringing great guests like Jasvir on the show. Jasvir, welcome, man.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I'm super psyched to have you on. Always cool to see another DePIN project popped up. I know you guys are on peak, but what do you guys do? Tell me about Penomo.
Absolutely. Well, in simple words, with Penomo, what we are trying to do is we help crowd finance renewable energy projects, like say storage batteries.
Okay.
And it's a project where we enable people of all kinds to have a direct stake in these previously inaccessible assets, and in return they get a revenue share which is produced from the utility services of these assets. So we're basically opening up access to previously locked or walled industry, and there's a plethora of reasons for doing that. But yeah, we bring the power of DeFi to the renewable energy space.
Okay, now is that at the kind of retail level, or is that commercial? Like if I've got a battery in my house, are you looking for that battery, or are you looking more for like a battery farm somewhere in whatever, Kansas?
Yeah, so eventually both. But initially we focus on the large batteries. Let's say the large batteries like commercial, industrial, and front of the meter. What we mean by front of meter is the batteries which are connected to large solar farms.
Okay.
Or wind farms, things like that.
Okay.
So we first start with storage batteries, but eventually the same model applies to solar farms, to wind farms, and all kinds of renewable assets. So batteries first, and then we move on to other renewable spaces.
Got it. Now, what kind of businesses are owning these batteries? It sounds like it's not the home. Are there a ton of these businesses out there? Like, what do they look like? What do they do? What are they supplying energy to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're helping businesses that produce the batteries, and we're helping businesses that own and operate the batteries on someone else's behalf. Or that's interesting. I got thumbs up. And we're helping battery owners who use it for their own purpose as well. Right. So these are all large companies. Either they're producing and selling them, or the ones who are owning and operating them, or operating on someone else's behalf, like energy as a service or energy storage as a service companies.
Got it. And so you must come from a battery background, because I can't think of a single business I know where they've got a giant battery. I'd be like, hey, you guys should use Penomo. What's your background? How'd you get into this?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I've been in the mobility, especially e-mobility space for a long time.
Okay.
I've worked with so battery technology is the same, pretty much, right? So the tech itself doesn't change much when you scale. There are other challenges, but the core physics remains the same. So I worked on projects of let's say e-vehicle projects, for motorsport companies or high performance electric cars. I've helped digitization of battery vehicle developments for some of the biggest names in the world. So I've operated at the physics level of understanding how the mathematics behind it works, as well as deployment of projects in real world. And so it made a lot of sense. So we in fact started with the second life battery usage space. So electric vehicle batteries are being deployed, but there's so many electric vehicle batteries that are going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, and these batteries still are 80% functional. And
That's right.
And then what's happening is there's a new set of businesses who is repurposing these batteries, right? So they take EV batteries from 10 vehicles, the used ones, and they repurpose them to sell as a storage battery business, and use it as a storage service. So now you've reduced the price of energy storage.
Yep.
And you've made it much more carbon efficient. So we started in that space, and then we realized that the financing problem that this industry has, and the monetization problem, that it's really hard to monetize these businesses, is not just for second life businesses, or we call the circular business. There's also
Hmm.
for the first life.
Yep.
And so we when we approach some of the businesses, the word spread extremely fast, and some of the biggest names came to us saying, "Hey, we are facing the same problem. Do you have a solution for us?" And so that's how we went into this. So we focus on the big batteries first, and we'll go on to the residential ones, but a bit later.
Okay. Now, you guys are running on Peak. Is there, for folks who haven't heard of this, is there a token right now, or is that something you guys are going to launch pretty soon?
A token for Penomo, you mean?
Yeah.
No, the token is in preparation. So
Okay.
it's not launched yet. So
Yep.
we're planning a token launch next year.
Okay. And then I guess the big question with that is that you're dealing with, it sounds like maybe something between really big companies and really small companies, but companies who are buying, a bunch of batteries. A lot of times those are pretty conventional and they're like, I don't know about this crypto thing.
Yeah.
How are you convincing them that this needs a token, that a token brings some kind of unlock potential to this that doesn't exist without it?
Yeah, great question. So we don't need convincing because these guys are reaching out to us. So
Okay.
that's something that we were shocked by. That, hey, arguably, I can give you. I don't want to give any names right now because still the agreements are being finalized. But the arguably the largest um, mobility supplier on this planet who is diving into this space says, "Hey, we're facing the same problem. Let's team up," right? And the reason is simple because the reason is twofold. These projects, same like battery, solar, wind, these projects need a lot of money, a lot of financing. And the way these companies or these projects have been financed are via traditional financing, big banks, big lenders, up to a year of due diligence, a lot of middlemen, stakeholders, so the cost of financing itself is so high. And at the same time, the rate at which these assets generate revenue is extremely slow, right?
Right.
Just by themselves, like, okay, they store energy, and they do an incredibly important job. I can get
Yep.
into how important storage batteries are, without which there is no renewable transition, basically.
Right.
But the rate at which they produce revenue is extremely slow. So now you have something which needs a lot of money, and it's making money at a very slow rate. So we're seeing the ROI time, right? In simple words, time to break even, whatever, more than 10 years, 10, 15, even 20 years. And
Okay.
this is something that these guys don't enjoy. So they're looking for better ways to finance, and they're looking for better ways to monetize whatever they're doing. And that's what we come in and offer. So we usually don't approach them saying that, hey, we are in the crypto space. What we're telling them that, hey, we have a very cost efficient and fast way of unlocking capital for you. So your assets are illiquid today. We make them liquid with our technology, and we help you crowd finance without any middlemen. So we cut costs for you. And at the same time, what we do is, because you are decarbonizing the energy space, we are opening up revenue streams like carbon credits, data
Mm.
monetization, and in case of solar farms, renewable energy certificates, or IREX, international IREX is what they
Okay.
call. And
Great.
so they're saying that, okay, we can now finance at a fraction of a cost, and you're
Yep.
saying you can get us new revenue
Yep.
with these multiple streams. It's a no-brainer for us, and we've seen a lot of traffic without spending a dime on marketing. So we don't need much convincing because these guys are reaching out to us.
That's always a good thing. Is when you don't have to convince your customers to go with you. All right, let's take
Yeah,
a quick break to talk about today's
yeah,
sponsor, eclipse Labs. One of the really cool parts about doing this show is we get to talk to tons of projects across the space, including back-end nerdy stuff that helps deepen projects. One of those today is the show sponsor, Eclipse Labs. They are a customizable rollup provider deploying app-specific chains for several deepen projects. They allow you to pick your virtual machine, your base layer, and additional customizations to enable new functionality for your DApp. Eclipse is committed to helping projects build on DePIN. Check them out at eclipse.builders and check out the interview we did with Neil at Eclipse if you haven't seen it already. Ripping. So, Jasvir, walk me through, you talked about just how important this is to be, I guess, recycling the batteries. I got a 2019 or 2020 e-Golf, and at some point, the batteries in that car are going to go bad enough that it's not going to be worth it to drive. Sounds like I don't take them to the dump. I take them to one of these companies that's going to work with you. But that's actually way more important than me just not throwing these things in the trash. Walk me through the importance of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So many moving parts here, right? So first thing, uh, I'm not sure how many people know this, but let's throw it out there. When your EV car retires, what it basically means is that your battery, unless we're talking about swappable batteries, which is a new model. So for the typical car like a Tesla, when your battery retires, it still is at 80% capacity. What it means is that 80% of the energy it can store is still usable. The
Okay.
reason why it retires from the car is that it's just not, in simple words, let's say, it wouldn't give you a comfortable range. So you would have a range problem, right? So the
Yeah.
application of the EV itself is not attractive anymore for the
Right.
customer because you'll have to charge it again and again. But that doesn't mean the battery itself is useless. It's just not
Right.
fit for the EV application.
Okay.
So now what these companies are doing is whom we've signed agreements with. These companies, they take these retiring EV batteries. The numbers are staggering. EVs, you know how fast this industry is expanding, and EVs are in production since the last 10 years. So the batteries have started to retire already. So these companies, they take these batteries, and of course there's a small percentage where the batteries are really not usable, but let's say 95% of them, the batteries are still at 80% capacity,
Yep.
and that's a lot. So to give you a perspective, 80%, what does it mean, 80%, right, of a standard EV battery? 80% battery at the end of life can support uh, uh, an urban German household for up to 4 days, right? So just one single battery. So that's the capacity we're talking about. If we don't reuse this, that's going back into the landfill. Nobody wants that, right? And that's a
Yeah.
waste of
Yeah.
resource.
Yep.
And that's why we also have regulation where companies, where the regulation is saying that, hey, these big batteries, they have to be either recycled or reused. And so these big companies, they're collecting these batteries, and now it's simple. Now they basically combine them together, right? They combine the 80%. They obviously make it secure. They save, they test it, and now small 10, let's say 10 small EV batteries are combined together to make one nice battery storage.
Yep.
And then these battery storage units are sold to residential complexes or commercial or large industrial complexes or solar farms. And so the advantage of this is that you have reduced the carbon footprint of the battery itself by up to 60 to 85%.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the cost of battery storage has gone down significantly, right? Because you're reusing a material,
Yep.
you're not mining something.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's super attractive, right? Of course, there is, you may ask, because it's 80%, of course, yes, the performance drops a little bit, but still, a number is that still these repurposed batteries can last up to 10 years, 10 years in a storage life. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the value. So there's a lot of it's a no-brainer if you ask me, and then after that they can be recycled, right? So
Love it. Love it, dude. Well, super exciting project. Super cool to see you out there and kind of putting this together and responding to demand. I really appreciate you coming on the show and spending some time with us. Where's the best place for people to find out more about Penomo? What's the site? Where do they follow you?
yeah, so it's penomo.io. I'm available on LinkedIn. We have a Twitter account, Penomo Protocol. And yeah, we write hot into the RWA and deep in space. You'll find us wherever these words are, hopefully more and more in the coming months.
Right on. Well, excited to see where you take it. We'll make sure that there are links down in the description. And thanks again for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.